Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I'm joined today by Billy Quinn, Managing Director of Codex USA. Thanks for joining me, Billy.
Hi, Jesse. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, absolutely. And I think I added the A to the end of US, so I apologize for that. Just kind of float off that way. So we'll run with it, but we don't have to change any of your business cards, I promise.
Yeah, no problem.
Excellent. Well, Billy, thanks for joining me today. And for those people who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself and your career to date?
Sure. So I'm currently managing director of Codix. My career path started out very interestingly as a developer. Got a degree in software development with a business minor. From New York originally, but did my schooling in Ireland, which is where I got my degree, and then moved back to Atlanta in '96 and entered into the professional arena, which is where I first got introduced to loans. I was thinking about this the other day, how long it's almost been 30 years as a developer. A friend of mine back then, one of my hobbies was flying model airplanes, and he told me on the airfield, hey, why don't you check out this company that are having an issue with a loan origination system? They need a developer to come in and help. And I'm like, okay, sure. So joined a company called ADS here in Atlanta. Was a developer and then moved more into system administration, then into network engineering. Which I feel like, in hindsight has helped a lot because I can talk to tech folks now, even though I'm more on the business side, as my career has evolved. And then in 2002, decided that I wanted to do my own consulting work. So back to the, statement about meeting people, you never know who you're going to meet. I was sitting having dinner one evening, and I was writing on a napkin what my business plan would be for this new consulting company. And this gentleman came and sat next to me and was telling me he was a very senior person at SunTrust Bank back then. And he was telling me about a system implementation that was not going well. And we talked about it. I gave him some advice, and I said to myself, well, maybe there's an opportunity to get into that, into the lending kind of mindset. And he said, took away my advice and apparently went internally and came back and said, congratulations, you have a new client, which is pretty quick.
Yeah, like hey, just so all you are clear out there, consulting is not that easy. Just throwing it out there. Throwing it out there.
It normally takes a long engagement time and you got to prove, but this was a specialty engagement that really was going wrong, where the GL was going out of whack, and it involved ABL type products and things of that nature. So I grew a team with our company for a number of years, with doing engagements with other banks, doing strategy work, both from the technology side, but trying to link the business. And that is really where my true ambition has been all along, is linking the business with the technology teams, which, as you know, Jesse, is not entirely easy at times. and it turns out that senior person said, hey, I want to do something entrepreneur. I like where this company is going. We grew company Kelsoft, it was called, the consulting company, and visited a number of the large banks and lenders, understanding their challenges and trying to help them with strategic work, primarily on the ABL supply chain finance side back then. And it was interesting because even back then there was a discussion about some of the smaller NBFIs and how the banks operate versus the banks wanting to be like some of the smaller NBFIs and get around some of which could happen through technology. So then moved into, started a second company. It was the first SaaS model for supply chain finance, which is reverse factoring, as you may know. And all of this was going great, and 2008 hit. So The first out the door were contracts. Obviously it was a tough time for everyone, and including particularly in the financial segment. So we had been doing, we wound up closing down the companies, and I started looking around in the industry because I really became enamored by the changes that were happening, and found we were doing consulting for UPS Capital at the time, and got introduced to Codix and had a conversation with a number of their senior management teams, and really liked their vision because of their capability to provide multiple finance products in one technology, which we had not seen when we went and interviewed all the other technology companies in the finance space back then. And that's when I joined Codix in 2008 to lead their U.S. office here out of Atlanta.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that background. I mean, I've had a career pretty much in business development, and it was always kind of like, you got to go learn how the sausage is made in order to sell it, right? So
Very
it's,
true.
so it's like I try to learn as much as I can about the technologies and everything else, because when you're trying to sell that stuff, it just makes it more easy, or I guess easier to sell. But yeah, I mean, having a technology background and then business acumen, that's perfect.
Yeah, I think so, Jesse, and it helps because I can sit in conversations and play in the middle if I need to. I mean, obviously I'm more in management now, but it helps me because in Codix we pride ourselves in doing strategy meetings with our clients. There's obviously a lot happening and has been happening for a number of years now. So every quarter we meet and meet with our clients to not only strategize with them what they see in the market, but what we see from a tech and business perspective. But not only that, Codix, as I believe we have offices all over the world. So we also have internal meetings where we share ideas and share new product ideas and new technology ideas, which is interesting when you talk international because things are done different in different regions.
Yeah.
So yeah, the technology aspect has helped.
Perfect. And then do you mind just kind of giving an overview? So Codix, how long have they been around? I know you started up the US office, but just general overview of the organization.
Yeah, interesting trajectory path. And as I mentioned, that's what really caught my eye, back in 2008. Started as a collection software company in the 90s in Europe. And as part of that, as you know, in collection software, you need asset management, you need certain modules and certain follow-ups, and certain workflows, and things of that nature. So Codix then started developing in the early 2000s. One of our banking clients said in Europe, hey, you guys have the building blocks from a technology perspective to build out a commercial finance offering. So we started working on factoring, asset-based lending, purchase order, things of that nature, and then continued the path into leasing in about 2015, consumer finance, with the idea being, because of some of the building blocks we have on the back end, which I'm happy to go into, the idea being, wouldn't it be nice to have one technology, one instance of technology that you can have multiple financial products running out of? So equipment finance, leasing, also the various forms of the general asset-based finance, financial products we see out there. So that is where we continued, and our latest development is we've added on some consumer finance capabilities. So organizations can leverage one technology to do all this and not have the cost and risk of having multiple disparate systems, which we
Well,
feel like, nowadays, Jesse, we see a lot of companies looking at offering hybrid products. And you can do that when you have all the data in one system um, natively.
yes.
So, the recurring theme we hear out there and what drives, again, our strategy sessions with our clients is they want to have the capability to offer varying products to their clients because they fear that if they don't, in a changing market in particular, or changing working capital needs, that there could be attrition in their client base.
Sure, sure. I mean, like the data is key, right? And from what I've seen and looking at your platform and kind of what you just said, I mean, you guys have kind of all those financial products wrapped in one ecosystem, and there's not a lot of technology, I guess, that I've seen in equipment finance that has that.
Yeah, and we try and we continue to evolve. One of our mandates, Jesse, is to provide best practices for each of these products. And I can talk a little bit more about how we do that. That's always the question. Hey, how do you
Sure.
guys do this? you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and,
Well,
and, and,
well, I mean,
and
yeah. And how do you do it, and how do you do it effectively?
yeah,
Because like, oh, we're the best floor planning software. Oh, we're the best this, and it's like jack of all trades or master of none, and that's up to you to determine how deep you want to go.
yeah, but it's interesting because, yeah, 100%. I mean, we do floor planners, and all the ones that we know of and continue to offer that. But it goes back to the debt collection days and some of the core components that I mentioned. Without going into too much detail, some of the proprietary stuff we have what we call an expert system, which is a BPM tool, like a BPM tool, where you're actually mapping your business processes into workflows in a graphical tool and then deploying that into the technology. So the expert system is like a virtual office supervisor. It's sitting there running, evaluating all these rules for the different products. If somebody needs to do something, we've defined this system of alerts. So your operational users will get an alert. You can even in the expert system define that if that operational user doesn't do something within a time frame, then an escalation happens to a manager who at all times can see every aspect of the business, given authorizations, of course. A component like that, but also, with the original architecture, we don't look at an asset as it's not hard coded in the tech. And in my consulting world, we saw a lot of hard coding and difficulty changing both business processes, but also, the type of asset you're doing. We've developed an generic asset definition system where you can define an asset and define criteria about that asset. And then that asset is available for finance in varying different terms. I know that may not make sense at a high level, but it's a flexible, configurable way of adding new asset classes into our system, in essence. So that's kind of how we can do partially the components we can do varying different products. Then one of the real neat features that we developed was the notion of a business unit. So if you're an entity that are doing leasing, capital leasing, let's say, or whatever type of leasing, you can actually use one instance of the technology, completely silo that business unit from a different business unit that might be doing a different form of finance, all within one instance of the application. And I think you may know we do some work. We like to tie in the different partners in the financial ecosystem. So the three big credit insurers are actually clients of ours. So we do a lot. We know policy management and things of that nature, and all of the routines that are involved with that. So we try and take
Multi-tenant, multi-product.
multi-tenant, multi-product, and we have clients that are now. This is where it gets really interesting. If you start doing international, and
Sure,
it
sure.
It is not easy because you have night jobs, potentially you have ETL runs, so we developed a platform where this can go international, and we have clients using multiple subsidiaries international with one instance of the technology, all completely siloed, or you can define a corporate view. This is the definition you can kind of do. But because of regulatory reasons, you might want to have your information, for example, if you're doing business in Mexico, completely siloed with different business rules back to the expert system, compared to what you're doing here domestically in the US, but
Cool.
all in one platform. And you have that
You,
data if you need it. So,
that's cool. So parent child, you can have just one and it goes across all. Yeah.
and this is where we have so many different forms of limits. You can imagine.
I can only
Um,
imagine. Yeah.
and and that also goes back to another kind of proprietary. We define entities as uh, an entity where they can play a role. So they can be a leaseor or a leasee or a client or a supplier in the generic commercial
Hmm.
finance world. We store the same base information, but then assign a role and criteria about that role based on that financial product and that contract type. And then, of course, in the platform, speaking about how do we do all this, we manage everything through electronic contracts. And typically, when setting up a new product is activating it electronically and then configuring workflows and accounting rules, which obviously vary per product, even within the leasing space.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, hopefully, people. I would say, if I'm sure you guys have done your due diligence on the other software providers in this industry, and it's definitely very a unique perspective and approach to yeah these systems. So
Yeah, we think so. And, it's all about evolution, continuous evolution. Nobody knows it all. You look at the market now, um, there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of potential, big challenges. Interestingly enough, I was just heard a seminar about the insurance industry and um, the backing behind the insurance industry and concerns about that. And you have to have both, I believe, nowadays, the business acumen, but the technology around it to be flexible enough to adapt and change to all these changes that are potentially happening and quite frankly happening, whether it be from a compliance perspective, a tech perspective. Our technology is now service based. There's a lot of trends to make technology, which some providers will struggle with because the core architecture doesn't really adhere to that. We try and do stuff, self-service type activities, pushing as much as possible out to a very sophisticated portal, which is adaptive to mobile devices, iPads, or a laptop. But these are the types of things that you need nowadays. I feel like, especially with the up and coming commercial and equipment finance professionals, quite frankly expect that level of
well,
reactivity.
absolutely, absolutely. And then I know you recently said you guys were going into consumer. Like from a compliance perspective, was that kind of a just like
It's
what are we doing,
it,
or was it not as challenging?
it's different. We're very new on the consumer side, so different regions have obviously different compliance with the CFPB and GDPR, and that's really the fascinating thing. How we manage that, Jesse, is we have subsidiaries across the world, 15, where we pride ourselves in having business experts in each of the regions that are continuously looking at things like regulation and compliance. And I can tell you where our clients really love. One of our clients a couple of years back said, "Hey, we want to do business in the LATAM region, UK, Germany." And we could say, "Okay, we have not only the technology set up for that, but the actual business experts to help kind of guide you through what you need to be thinking about." But yeah, the consumer side can be it's a configuration, um,
Hmm.
which a lot of the stuff, and that kind of goes back to the tech, the creation of the tech. We don't hard code anything. We try and push them into Oracle dynamic values in the database. Um, so when you want to make a change, it's not necessarily a code change. And this is our total goal, is to standardize product offerings across clients and allow their secret sauce to be implemented in dynamic rules. So it makes it easier. One of the challenges with tech providers is doing major upgrades. Um, we always
Or
have,
fixing one thing and breaking four other things.
yeah,
Uh,
and that's why we're, it's always, this is always, it's always, interesting conversations, I'll say, because you need, when same as change, change kind of management and how you
yeah,
approach that. No more than actual project implementations where you really need to understand up front what the expectations are, what the goals, and that's why we kind of pride ourselves in that too, where we are very religious in a way about doing scope studies up front, making sure that we're clearly in alignment, as much as possible, and then scoping that and doing cost and time efforts based on that. But we spend the time up front because I truly believe that's most important, to help prevent things from going sideways in implementation.
perfect. And then I guess from a global headquarters, where's that at, Billy?
Global headquarters is in France. In the Americas, we have presence here in Mexico City, Canada, and Atlanta, as I mentioned. And then subsidiaries across the world, which is interesting. Like I mentioned before, we share ideas. It's interesting to see how products are done elsewhere, and if there's potential to do them more efficiently in different regions. But also, from a regulation perspective and a support perspective, some of our clients have 24/7 support, and we can use the follow the sun model. And not only that, we can also do 24-hour continuous development if needs be. We've structured our teams. We, we're very particular in who we hire, because we look at it as at least a 6-month equity investment on behalf of the company to get up to speed in the products, from the
Mm-hmm.
business side. Our employees will typically have business knowledge, not to exceed in some of the technology folks. And then, we structured it such that we can provide support 24/7, which some of our clients use.
Great. Thank you for that. Thank you for that background. So I guess we dove into a lot of the technology stuff. You know, are you guys, it's such a stupid question. From an AI perspective, how in are you on that? Or is it just more just enhancement to certain parts of the system?
So we are we have an AI agent, that can interact with our technology. We're doing some things on the payment side. Um, it's back to the data, and different clients really believe that there is opportunity. We're doing some things, from a predictive pattern, which is interesting, Jesse, because I mentioned our expert system. You can set that system in the future, and we're doing this in the collection side. So I want you to think, more from the
Hmm.
collection side, where you can use strategies from the past, what we call champion challenger, where you get a subset of clients and see with a strategy on the collection side, whether it was phone calls or what was used in that strategy, take the results of that and predict based in the future what would be the best path forward. So we're already doing smaller forms of AI, but I feel like, we obviously always work with our clients on optimizing their business processes, um, and giving them the tools for uploading. We're doing some AI work about prediction based on data that we have in the system, payment. not really on credit risk. That's a real individual, difficult one, I would say, to automate without a lot of eyes. And I believe it will come to a lot of eyes for a while in the financial industry with AI. But we are doing components to answer your question natively.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. I mean, customer service collections, you know, people calling what they have 3 to 5 different things that they answer. It's always the same stuff over and over again. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. And it's kind of neat, the whole portfolio, uh, you know, paying behavior. They always paid right away. All of a sudden it's like they paid like then 5 days later, paid just on time, then 5 days late. Then it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, and that's the type of stuff where I really, yeah, red flag.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and
something's happening here. Let's proactively reach out and see if there's a modification that we need or something else. And that's the
yeah, that's the kind of thing we're working with our clients. I mean, we're a tool provider. It's up to our clients to use that tool. We can go extreme automation, and extreme payment matching and things of that nature. We can do auto funding. There's all kinds of, again, we've built in dynamic parameters. This stuff isn't, as much as possible, not hard coded. It's where you can go into a screen in the system and set up how automated you want to be from a technology perspective, because we have different clients that have different views. Now, I will say I'm seeing the change. um, Clients are definitely wanting to become more automated. I believe you kind of have to stay competitive in this marketplace.
yeah, people want to do double the volume with the same headcount. And
Yeah.
how do you do that? How do you do that without burning your people out? You have to have
Well,
the right technology, right? I mean, you have to maximize your
exactly.
technology usage.
Yeah, exactly, Jesse. And I call it managing by exception. Let the mundane tasks, let the technology handle that to the extent of your comfort level,
Yeah,
and let your users do value-added tasks. There, I mentioned in the technology, we have this idea of alert queues, so users can log in at any point in time and see, what they have to do, and managers can log in and see the health of their, business, quite frankly. But there really should only be looking at tasks that require human intervention or human action. And with our expert system, we try as much as possible to allow it to do the processing of mundane things like calculations and automation of sending emails, and automation of this is all definable through rules. You making sure that dunning letters are sent out, printing letters for those that still print paper automatically out to printers, even making phone calls. We have a telephony module that can be used on the
fun.
collection side or on the sales side. But the idea is the user should be seeing things that really a user needs to see and take a decision on, because the technology couldn't.
Now,
And
how are
that's the
you
flow.
finding, I guess, based on all of the capabilities of this tool, right? Like, is it a daunting? I'm just thinking about it as a equipment finance organization, like staring at this and being like, wow, this thing can do so much. Is it almost like overwhelming? Or I guess, how do you make sure that that's supported Billy, where it's not like, oh my God, this thing's a beast. It controls every part of my back office and front office. Like, how do I manage this?
It comes down to, um, first of all, we define what products, and sometimes we have clients that want multiple products, which, as mentioned, is capability. But if you're using a single product, it then it's back to the scoping session that I mentioned, that we take very seriously, because we really believe that's the only way you can do a successful implementation, is really get understanding up front. And I've seen a number of projects historically where that wasn't, and then that just leads to failure and upset and everything I'm sure you're aware of, Jesse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we sit down and then we compartmentalize it to let's take the single product and go, okay, we can deploy out of the box for that product, which we consider best practice rules in the expert system. So we're not necessarily hard coding anything. We then have the discussion, does this fit your organization? Then we do some configuration, not customization. um, less.
The other C word. Got it. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and then we go through because the system itself is an enterprise system, and I feel like um, the, to the lending systems out there, there's a component of prospecting upfront. We can activate that. We don't have to activate that. There's a component of origination. We can set standard templates within the system, so you don't have to bother. We can upfront define that together, what your product looks like. And we have a tiered hierarchy that I won't get into on this call, but where you can override parameters at different relationship levels. We'll leave it at that. Then we get into the servicing, and it's like, okay, what does the servicing part of your organization look like? Then obviously, all the way through credit insurance and collections. Well, how much of the system do you want to activate on that or used? And then if there's external entities that you work with, we've opened up our portal, and this is the we do syndications, but also we open up the portal where we didn't define any external entity. We defined someone external to your organization that can come in and do all of these activities based on your authorizations. So you can now interact with external organizations, whether it be collection agents. They can upload, results. We even have messaging. We have the notion, back to what I mentioned earlier, which is as much as possible self-service. So to answer your question, it goes back to the type of organization and what features and functionalities you want implemented. And then from a UI perspective, we have the capability to minimize screens and modify screens. And we even, one of the things that I think we may have all seen in the past is in the equipment finance and broader asset finance, different terminology potentially within different organizations. So to address that, and this is back to my comment about continuous improvement, we built our own language definition system. So you can have a New York English, you can have an Atlanta English, a Phoenix English, and a British English, and it will change the labels on the screens dynamically. And this includes
we might have to get a separate thing where it's just you showing that.
And this one thing, Jesse, like it has is that, and I will also tell you and this is the continuous improvement thing I talked about. Uploading information when you're not doing machine to machine pulls, we built a tool to address the traditional problem of different formats for different files. So you can now dynamically push that as a lender out to your client to change the format that you upload those files in dynamically through a tool in our web portal, or you can do that. So you have different file formats that you can dynamically change without having some kind of mid-tier normalization engine. This is the type of stuff when I say continuous improvement.
I like it. I'm saying we can go on and on here.
Yeah. I'm happy to. I think it would take a few cups of coffee.
Yeah. I'm gonna change gears a little bit just for sake of time here, and we'll go a little lighter on this. And I will ask everyone who comes on the program to give me a fun fact about themselves, Billy. So, other than the fact that you grew up in New York, you went to school in Ireland for 4 to 6 years. You still have the Irish accent, not the New York accent. What else we got?
So fun fact.
I'm sorry. I left that alone in the beginning, and I'm like, wait, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it kind of ties into my fun fact, Jesse. Growing up I grew up in New York, but spent a lot of time in Ireland, not just schooling. I grew up in an airline family, so we moved from New York to Atlanta to Ireland. I did my schooling, but I really enjoy. I used to play when I was young and not creaking in the bones. I used to play a lot of soccer growing
Uh,
up, and I love watching soccer now. And that's one of the things that really I enjoy. And obviously, the World Cup's coming up, so that's a good thing for the U.S.
uh,
Um, and other than that, going for long walks of late,
hmm.
like particularly in Atlanta's kind of expanding, and it's trying to get people out and exercising. So it built this belt line along an old railway track. So it's really
Oh,
neat. You
cool.
can now walk all over Atlanta and into the suburbs of Atlanta and go to different restaurants and different entertainment and all connected. And I think that's
Well,
fascinating.
that's phenomenal for another what, 3 months, maybe 2.5, and then feel like humidity. Like, can they have it air conditioning? That'd be great. You know?
Yeah, I mean, some people like that, but I know you get the heat, but no humidity. But that's a different
No,
story, right?
it's like you walk out and it's like I just showered 6 times on a 2-mile walk. It's awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that, Billy. And I guess my final question I have for you is, why should someone want to do business with Billy Quinn and Codex US?
Um, I would say, I mean, there's a number of reasons. The main reason I would say is honestly, we view it as a partnership. And sometimes that word is overused, but we really do. We don't go into an engagement and just try and sell things and deploy them. We try and understand what you want, understand your needs, and really be a partner in the implementation process. Provide business experts, but not only that. If your business somehow starts to it's expanding or growing, or you want to look at different financial products, we're here from a business expertise and technology expertise as a partner to really help you. And we look at any relationship we have as long term, not just one and done type deals.
Perfect. Well, Billy, it's been great to get to learn more about your history and more about what the Codex platform can do. Hopefully, our paths cross sometime in the near future at an upcoming event. And
Yeah,
just great to get to know you, sir.
yeah. Thank you, Jesse, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Hopefully, you got a better idea of me and Codex, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Take care.